The Gospel of St. Mark, the 6th chapter. And he departed thence, and came into his own country, and his disciples followed him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many that heard him were astonished, and said, From whence hath he these things? And what wisdom is this that is given unto him? And such virtues that are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, Mary's son, the brother of James and Hose's, and of Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended by him. And Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not despised, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and among them that are of the same household. And he could there show no miracles, but laid his hands upon a few sick folk, and healed them. And he marveled at their unbelief. And he went about by the towns that lay on every side, teaching. And he called the 12, and began to send them 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing unto their journey, save a rod only, neither scrip, neither bread, neither money in their purses, but should be shod with sandals, and that they should not put on 2 coats. And he said unto them, Wheresoever ye enter into a house, there abide till ye depart thence. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when ye depart thence, shake off the dust that is under your feet for a witness unto them. I say verily unto you, it shall be easier for Sodom and Gomorrah at the day of judgment than for that city. And they went out and preached that they should repent, and they cast out many devils, and they anointed many that were sick with oil, and healed them. And King Herod heard of him, for his name was spread abroad, and said, John Baptist is risen again from death, and therefore miracles are wrought by him. Others said, It is Elias, and some said, It is a prophet, or as one of the prophets. But when Herod heard of him, he said, It is John, whom I beheaded. He is risen from death again. For Herod himself had sent forth, and had taken John, and bound him, and cast him into prison for Herodias' sake, which was his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. John said unto Herod, It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Herodias laid wait for him, and would have killed him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man and a holy, and gave him reverence. And when he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. But when a convenient day was come, Herod on his birthday made a supper to the lords, captains, and chief estates of Galilee. And the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced, and pleased Herod in them that sat at the table also. Then the king said unto the maiden, Ask of me what thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he swore unto her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, even unto the 1/2 of my kingdom. And she went forth and said to her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, John Baptist's head. And she came in straightway with haste unto the king, and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John Baptist. And the king was sorry, howbeit for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat at supper also, he would not put her beside her purpose. And immediately the king sent the hangman, and commanded his head to be brought in. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head in a charger, and gave it to the maiden. And the maiden gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took up his body, and put it in a tomb. And the apostles gathered themselves together to Jesus, and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said unto them, Come ye apart into the wilderness, and rest a while. For there were many comers and goers, that they had no leisure so much as to eat. And he went by ship out of the way into a desert place. But the people spied them when they departed, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and came thither before them, and came together unto him. And Jesus went out, and saw much people, and had compassion on them, because they were like sheep which had no shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him, saying, This is a desert place, and now the day is far past. Let them depart, that they may go into the country round about, and into the towns, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, Give ye them to eat. And they said unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He said unto them, How many loaves have ye? Go and look. And when they had searched, they said, 5 and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make them all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down here a row, and there a row, by hundreds and by 50s. And he took the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, and looked up to heaven, and blessed, and broke the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to put before them. And the 2 fishes he divided among them all. And they all did eat, and were satisfied. And they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. And they that ate were about 5,000 men. And straightway he caused his disciples to go into the ship, and to go over the water before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And as soon as he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them troubled and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night he came unto them walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. When they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out, for they all saw him, and were afraid. And immediately he talked with them, and said unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased, and they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and marveled. For they remembered not of the loaves, because their hearts were blinded. And they came over, and went into the land of Gennesaret, and drew up into the haven. And as soon as they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran forth throughout all the region round about, and began to carry about in beds all that were sick to the place where they heard tell that he was. And whithersoever he entered into towns, cities, or villages, they laid their sick in the streets, and prayed him that they might touch, and if it were but the edge of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole.
William Tyndale's translation of the New Testament, while largely recognizable, presents challenges to modern readers due to shifts in vocabulary and grammar. Though we can often grasp the meaning of his words, the structure of sentences, the use of prepositions, and certain expressions require closer examination. Words that were once common have either changed in meaning or fallen out of use entirely, making it necessary to explore their original function to fully understand the text. Many words in Tyndale's Mark 6 illustrate how English has evolved. Words like thence and hence function as directional adverbs, meaning from that place and from here, respectively, but have been replaced in modern English by prepositional phrases such as from there or as a result. Similarly, scrip, which referred to a small traveler's bag, has disappeared from common usage, while shod, meaning wearing shoes, is now mostly restricted to historical or literary contexts. The phrase whosoever shall not receive you sounds formal to us, but was a common way of saying whoever does not receive you. The name Elias, used in Tyndale's translation, reflects the Greek form of Elijah, a reminder that names in the Bible were once transliterated differently. The grammar of prepositions in Tyndale's English also differs from today's usage. The phrase he departed thence omits the word from, which modern English would require, and he departed from there. Similarly, shake off the dust that is under your feet contains a redundancy that we would simplify as shake the dust off your feet. Prepositions were often placed differently within sentences, and expressions like drew up into the haven would more naturally be rendered today as arrived at the harbor. The doubling of adverbs for emphasis, such as straightway with haste, adds urgency, but is unnecessary in modern English, where immediately would suffice. Understanding these archaic forms not only clarifies the meaning of Tyndale's translation, but also provides insight into how English has changed over time. While we can recognize most words, their placement and function have shifted, altering the way we construct sentences today. By studying these differences, we gain a greater appreciation for the development of the language and the historical depth of the Bible's translation into English.